Another attorney commercial with big promises? Millions of dollars, practicing law 24 hours a day, blah, blah, blah. Let's get rid of the smoke and mirrors. None of that really matters. What does matter? Having a medical doctor as your attorney. That matters.
Alrighty, crew. We are in a fire situation that on a day is a better day from a firefighting and fire weather perspective than what we're going to have tomorrow. But we have had evacuations that have been issued, and they are for a 2-mile order around County Road F45 and State Highway 115. That's via Everbridge, which is the official kind of notification system that they are using in Fremont County, and then a 3-mile evacuation notice as well. And the livestock, pets, residents can all evacuate in the short term here to Pathfinder Park. Let me see if that is in Penrose is going to be my guess. Let me get up the maps here. I want to show you why these evacuations have happened, because we have seen a new fire burn area develop. Let me see where this is at. I see a Pathfinder Park in Florence. I'm not sure. I'll have to work on that. But let's get to what I do know here, because things are changing pretty quickly this afternoon. So I was out running an errand, and the smoke plume looked different than yesterday. Not as tall in the atmosphere, not as crisp on the edges. That tells us that there's the vertical motion not as rapid as it was yesterday, at least at this time, but we're getting into the hottest few hours of the day here, and so things may be changing up a little bit. This was sent in to me on Facebook from Turkey Canyon Ranch, and you see it's still blowing for sure, or growing for sure, and burning some stuff, but here is what I think is the most interesting thing that has happened this afternoon, and I'm going to zoom in. You can see here that there is a new burn area on the southern end of the fire. And So I'm going to take this information off where the road closure was, and I'm going to change the orientation of the map a little bit. So this northern area was the burn that we've had for the last couple of days. And there is a new area that is burned just in the vicinity of where the closure was on Highway 115. And this is County Road F45 in here as well, coming out of Salt Canyon. So this is an area where you kind of go up in a big way, and there are some passing lanes on the highway there. And it's a 2-mile area within County Road F45 and a pre-evacuation area, an additional mile out that the evacuations and pre-evacuation notices have been requested. And so it's this new burn area that is of concern, because if I zoom in down here, let's see if we start to get toward some structures down here. And so that is why if we're getting more people into this area, that's why we're hearing of some evacuations being given. This is all in eastern Fremont County. And so things changing up here this afternoon on, again, a day that is a better day to fight the fire, and on what should be a slower day of growth for the fire than what's coming tomorrow. And let me show you what I mean here. Because where we are right now is we've got wind at about 10 to 15 miles per hour. So before I advance this model into the future, I want to show you what we're actually measuring. This is on post at Fort Carson. We don't have any, obviously, weather stations right on top of the fire that I have access to. But on the airfield at Fort Carson, the wind's out of the southeast at 13. And then there's a CDOT weather station in Penrose where it's out of the southeast at 5. This Penrose station a while ago had a north wind. So it's a little bit erratic out there. And you combine that with this gnarly terrain that the fire is in, and those two things are causing some issues out there. And as I zoom back in on the fire, the other issue is what the fire is burning in, because this is juniper-y kind of stuff, and that stuff wants to burn easy. So this is right at the southern end of Salt Canyon here. And you can see that ridge, especially if I kind of tilt down a little bit. You can see the ridge that has been, kind of on the eastern edge of the fire here, that nasty terrain, and all of those changes have made it difficult for firefighters as well. But it's this southern burn area, and I don't know when that happened, if that was this morning, if that was last night. We'll have to get some word on that, but that is certainly causing an issue out there. So we're going to hang out here for the next little bit, and we are going to talk about what's happening out there right now. If you have any information, or if you can see the smoke plume from where you are and you are safe, you are welcome to join me live. So yesterday we had somebody in security that could see it. If you are to the south of there, maybe around Penrose, maybe around Pueblo West, maybe Canyon City, you might have a decent look at that as well. You can join me here on these links. So I'm going to walk you through what the links are. It's small z, small m, capital S, a small j, capital K, and then 1, small r, capital J, capital S, L, and the number 1. I also have those linked to the notification that I pushed out about the fire coverage that we're going to do here in the Peaks2Plains Weather app, and those have direct links. When you go to those, you'll notice on the webpage it takes you to, at the top, that there is an advanced option that it gives you, and you should have the ability to kind of switch from, the camera facing front and the rear camera on your phone to check out. Whereas if you just hit submit and you join from the landing pages on those, you're not going to have that. Okay, let me talk about what the wind in this area is going to do here over the next several hours for the balance of the afternoon into the evening. And what is driving our weather today is our mountain plains circulation, or our diurnal flow. And so you can see right now that the wind is out of the southeast in this area as a generality. Earlier today, it was out of the northwest. That's to be expected for this reason. When you don't have a strong jet stream overhead, or you don't have a big front in the area approaching you or moving through, the pressure gradient is pretty benign. And because we have this big ridge of high pressure over the western US, that's what we've got right now. And so it's real similar to a sea breeze. But there's some differential heating that happens of the Earth's surface. And in relative terms, especially if you compare it to level in the atmosphere, the mountains heat up faster than we get over the plains. And so during the afternoon hours, where we are right now, we have flow going from the lower elevations up the side of the slopes, up the mountains. That's what happens in the summertime, 8 or 9 out of 10 days. And why when we start pushing that air up the mountains, you start seeing cumulus clouds forming over Pikes Peak and some of the foothill areas before you see them in other locations. That's what we have today. Earlier this morning, kind of before the sun came up, until about 9:30 or 10 o'clock in the morning, we had the wind was reversed coming down the slope of the mountains because we get the mountain slopes cooling rapidly, and so that flow wants to go down to the plains. So if I show you what happens here over the next several hours, it's kind of interesting to watch because the computer model is picking up on the other end of the switch where we go from this upslope flow to this kind of downslope flow. And again, this is just one computer model here, and you see the streamlines in white. Notice in the late part of the day, again, this is on the large scale. Don't pay attention to the details around the fire because this computer model is not picking up the fire. But you see here we get towards 7 o'clock and see how the wind kind of starts flowing off of Pikes Peak and down toward the Arkansas River Valley. That's the beginning of that wind shift that we often see and that we expect. We call it the mountain plain circulation. You'll hear me say sometimes the diurnal circulation, meaning as the sun goes up and down, we get these circulation switches. What we're probably seeing out there right now and for the next couple of hours is kind of like what we had yesterday where the fire starts to make its own weather. And I posted this earlier on Peaks2Plains and on social media because it's a good representation, a good visual cue, if you will, of what is happening out there right now. Pull up something here. So I'm doing a bunch of different things at once, so you're going to have to stay with me when I have to use my brain to do something else real quick. So this is an extreme situation that I am showing you here where you would get a pyrocumulus cloud to form and maybe at times a pyrocumulonimbus cloud, like a thunderstorm actually forms from this vertical lift that happens because of convection. So you have the fire that obviously has heat around it, and that air right above the fire is less dense because it's hotter than the surrounding environmental air. And so it's less, it's more buoyant, it's less dense, and so it wants to ascend. That's why you could see that smoke plume yesterday and you can see it again today. If it happens in an extreme case, and I remember this happening during the Hayman fire in 2002, it can actually develop a thunderstorm that can produce lightning, that can start other fires, or it can even produce some rain. That Hayman firestorm did that. But you get, as this air above the fire starts ascending, there's air that starts rushing in from the sides to replace it, and that's how the fire kind of creates its own weather. So that's what we're watching for here as well. And you can see that we did have, we've got a plume out there today. This was from about, it was posted about, I guess, 2 hours ago now, from Turkey Canyon Ranch. And it just doesn't look as robust as it did yesterday. But that may be changing here over the next several hours, and something that we'll watch for here as we get into the heating of the day and we start to hit our high temperatures for the day between now and about 4:30 or 4:45. So there's a 2-hour window here, kind of like yesterday, where because the humidities are lowest, because the temperatures are warmest, and because the fire is making some of its own weather, that we may be in the time of day here where we're going to get the most rapid sort of growth. Of course, some of that depends on, some of the trees or the juniper that you see in that area that may be burning. So let's check out what the temperatures are right now across the area, because it's a record warmth day for sure. And so the temperature right now is 79 in Colorado Springs and 86 in Pueblo. If I look at the wind gusts across the area that we are measuring, they're not that bad in the vicinity of the fire. Like I said, they're probably up around 15 miles per hour or so. Certainly could be worse than that. Humidity out there this afternoon is bone dry. We're in the single digits, so that is not great. And obviously that dry air getting pulled into the fire is, something that is an issue. Okay, let me share some information here with some people. All right. So if you are in this area, again, this is a 2-mile evacuation order around County Road F45 and State Highway 115. For evacuation information, you can call 276-7421. Let me get that up on the screen here for you. So give me a moment. That number again is 719-276-7421. If you need evacuation information. So 24 evacuation info. And let me pull that up now. And here you go. Okay, I'm going to leave that up for people that need it. Let's use some of our other tools here and let's see if we can tell what is happening with the fire. Some of this stuff I'm going to have to take off because this is from yesterday. So let me do that. And I'm going to loop this here. This is visible satellite over the last 4 hours. And because the smoke plume isn't as active as yesterday, we don't see it showing up on visible satellite yet, but we'll keep an eye on that. The other thing that we are watching for is on TAMCO radar is, can we see the smoke plume on there? If you remember 24 hours ago, we could. And today, this is the lowest tilt of the radar here. I just don't see it as of yet. That may change over the next couple of hours, but as of now, we don't see that. So again, the fire's burning to the east of Highway 115, and the south end of it now is about 3 miles north of Penrose. So if we do the math, and it's, information when it comes out and changes quick like this, you've got to give me some wiggle room to be able to figure out if my question is Penrose on a pre-evacuation notice? It's about 3 miles away, so it's close. In fact, I'm going to call this number right now. We'll just do this together and we'll see. Because, I shouldn't be doing this, but because I'm sharing information with the public, I think it's okay. So I'm going to call. We'll see if it's a recording or if it's a human being. If it's a recording, I'll pull it up for you. And, phone number is going right now. So we'll see. The Fremont County Sheriff's Office on Facebook also has this information posted. Hello? Hi, Bill. This is Matt Meister with Peaks2Plains Weather. How are you? Good. Is the pre-evacuation, does that include the town of Penrose? Part of it. The very north and east. Okay, so it's basically to the north of there. That's perfect. Thank you, sir. Is there anything at this point from the Emergency Operations Center that you would like me to pass on to the public other than what I've got? Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate the information. Thank you so much. Okay, so from the Emergency Operations Center in Fremont County, that is good to know. The very north end of Penrose and kind of the northeast side of the town of Penrose is included in that evacuation. So if we zoom in here, you can see the town of Penrose, and I'm sure all of the residents in the area are aware, but it's, these northern fringes here that may be included in that. And so you can see there are, there's some mobile homes up there. There are some acreages that are up into that area. And it's still flat down here before you start getting, into the terrain that takes you into Salt Canyon and the closures. Now, it's good news, I think, that we don't see the plume on radar as of yet, but we're going to keep an eye on it. And I think the issue here this afternoon, again, is this new area of growth or fire burn that, like when I had the fire perimeter in there this morning, that was not there. So I'm not sure if that was this morning or if that was overnight, but they did a new flyover this morning, and that's how you get these fire perimeters, is you heat map these things. So, things have certainly changed. If you're watching this right now on Facebook or on Instagram, would you do me a favor and share it? Because we may get this to some people that need the information or are at least interested in the information here. The closure on Highway 115 goes all the way up to Cherokee Drive near Fort Carson. In fact, the closure has been expanded to mile marker 18 near K Street in Penrose. And so that is some new information that I actually am just seeing for the first time here. So that might be where the border of the evacuation is as well. So if you would like to join me this afternoon, you certainly can do so. You can use these links here. You put it into the browser on your phone or your desktop. If you are, again, in a safe place, that's always the most important thing from my perspective, is you need to be in a location that is safe. If you are evacuating or something like that, I don't want you to join me here. Focus on getting yourself out of there. If you're in the pre-evacuation area, get everything together that you need to get together. Your important papers, your people, your pets, prescriptions, those 5 Ps that are often talked about when these situations are happening. Let me check some of my social media here and see if anybody has added any other pictures or anything. Let's see what else we got here. Okay, I am going to put a picture up. Rick Kimmick sent me a drone shot from Canyon City. Rick, thank you for doing that, if you are here on the live stream with us. And he says that there is a lot less wind in his area than what was happening yesterday. But that doesn't mean we don't have issues, obviously. Okay. Let me put this up here. Got to get some of this stuff ready while I'm on with you. It's a real interesting kind of photo, and it matches what I said about Okay, let me pull this photo up and then I'll show it to you here. Trust me, it's worth the wait. Okay. And Rick, thanks for doing that. I'm grateful. Okay, so I've got to get to the file here. Okay, almost there. Thanks for the patience. Okay, here it comes. I'm doing all this while you're sitting there looking at it, so you get to. This is behind baseball, right? Okay. All right. So this is a great shot here. So Rick put the drone up, and again, he says that this was from 2:30, so it was about 25 minutes ago. Certainly much calmer than what we saw yesterday afternoon at this time. He put an arrow on there. Rick, you're good. Thanks for doing that. Of the fire plume there. And you can also see, that's probably not dust. I mean, that's smoke from the fire that is probably still down in the boundary layer of the atmosphere. And the look of that plume kind of matches the other shot that I showed you that is just not as intense as it was yesterday. And that's good news. I think that's a function of the wind. It was about 5 miles per hour higher 24 hours ago than it is right now. And that makes a difference, but what the fire is burning in makes a difference. And, you know, having a new area of fire also makes a difference as well. I'm going to look on a different website. I'm looking at what flights are in the atmosphere right now. Pathfinder Park, for those of you that may need this information, if you have animals that you need to take, Pathfinder Park is on Highway 115, southwest of Penrose, west of Florence, from best I can tell. If there's another Pathfinder Park in Fremont County, I'm unable to find it. So just be aware of that. Okay. See if there's any firefighting aircraft that are up that I can see here. Okay. All right, there is an aircraft that is over the fire. And it's pretty low, and it's taking off from Colorado Springs Airport and is doing loops around the fire. It's a Beechcraft Super King Air. It's a twin turbo prop. And that it's doing something with the fire. I'm not sure what. There is also there's aircraft in there for sure. So I'm sure those are doing drops of whether it's water or retardant. I'm not sure. There's a helicopter that is inbound right now. It's a privately owned helicopter that is cruising toward the fire, and I'm going to bring that up for you here. So I'm going to change a website that I've got on here. And again, we're doing all this real time together. Put this in here. Okay, I'm going to pull that up as soon as it loads. And this is from the Flight Aware website. But you can go to that website and you can see what these aircraft are doing in real time. And you can see the elevation and everything that aircraft is moving, that helicopter is moving 5,500 feet, 87 miles an hour, and it's slowing down. So I'll see if it goes over the fire, and it may be doing some water drops. It may be doing something else. Took off from Fremont County Airport. So we'll watch that. Like I said, there are also some other aircraft that are up in the area that have been circling through the fire, probably dropping retardant of some point. So that's kind of what we got going on this afternoon. And it's amazing to me to see the fire expanding in the way that it is over the last 48 hours on days that are not huge fire weather days in the sense of the wind. I mean, there are no red flag warnings that are up today. So that's why I say this is a better firefighting day than what tomorrow is going to be. And here's why. These are the red flag warnings that are up for Saturday in southern Colorado. And you can see here, they go up in the late morning. They last until 11 o'clock tomorrow night. And we're going to have low relative humidity again. It's from 11 a.m. until 11 p.m. tomorrow. And we may have some areas where the wind is gusting in the vicinity of the fire. I'd say between 25 and 35 is certainly a possibility. And that's going to affect the fire as well. Now, this computer model is not going to show the wind as strong tomorrow as it is going to be. It's just not representing the area well. But I'm going to show you the changes here. So I'm going to I'm going to change the time to tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. and then I'm going to take it to tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. And so in the morning, the wind is going to be lighter. Let me put the correct fire perimeter on there as well. The wind will be lighter tomorrow morning than it's going to be in the late morning and the afternoon. There's no doubt about that. Let me upload this current fire parameter so you can see where the new burn is. So this will be kind of an important, see that new burn to the south? I think that's what has prompted the evacuations here through the course of the afternoon. Okay, so tomorrow morning, we're at 6 a.m. And I'm going to walk this forward into the future. And you'll notice that the model is picking up Canyon City's wind getting quicker. And then around the fire, as we head into the afternoon, it starts to decrease it after about 3 o'clock. And I don't like that at all. I don't think that that's how that's going to work out. What we probably end up with is some of the wind curling around Pikes Peak here. And again, maybe getting some gusts up around 25, 30 miles per hour, maybe a little bit stronger than that. And that's why these red flag warnings are in effect. So the fact that we have evacuations this afternoon, like, let's talk, right? It tells you that the folks that are managing the fire, working the fire, have concerns about the human lives that are in the areas of the evacuation. And again, it's a 2-mile area around Highway 115 and County Road F45. And then there is a pre-evacuation notice of 3 miles on the south end of the fire there, which does take us into the extreme northern parts of Penrose, so on a pre-evacuation. Now, if you're managing this fire, you don't wait until it's, on the doorstep of these places to say, okay, get out. It's their job to get people out of there and give them time to get out of there should there be an issue. So kudos to the folks managing the fire and the firefighters for doing that ahead of time and for being aware of that. All right. We have someone that has joined us here, and I am going to pop them in. Hello, good afternoon. How are you?
Hello, Matt. I live right near the airport, and the big air tankers are
Okay.
getting ready to come back over. They've been flying over my house all day. I think at
Okay.
least 4 or 5 rounds now.
Okay. Are they the twin props?
No, they're the big
The big,
C-130s.
okay, the big ones. You've seen those going as well. Okay. I haven't
Yeah,
seen those on
there's
'FlightAware, but that's good to know.
2 of them from Coulson Aviation.
Okay. That's excellent. That is really, really useful info because I'm on the north end of the metro area. And so I don't have access to that. So that was a great report right there. Somebody in the vicinity of the airport is seeing the tankers come and reload and go. That fire or the helicopter that we talked about is up over the fire right now. And it has got down to, let me see what its elevation is here. Yeah, it's dropping. It's 6,000 feet. It's starting to turn around. So I think that one is doing it as well. And there is a picture of that chopper that you can see there. The tail numbers are N3802C. You can see that it's en route to the fire and over it now and dropping stuff. So have you seen any other aircraft that have been in the vicinity that you can tell are going back to the airport this afternoon? He keeps popping in and out there. We'll see if he pops back.
Do you still have it?
Oh yeah, I can hear you for sure.
Yeah. You see it that way?
There we go. So you're looking at, let me pull that up. All right, there we go. Okay. So that's one of the big C-130s?
Yes, that's the first one. There's a second one behind it.
Okay. And what's your name?
Owen Stanwood.
Okay, Owen, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Owen, thanks for letting us know about that. That's very helpful to see here. And I appreciate you calling in and using one of the links there. And if you see anything else that changes, you let me know. And man, that's super helpful to me because I'm not in that part of town where he is, and I don't have that information. That is really, really good news. So thanks for doing that, Owen. I appreciate it. Let's see. So he just saw that tanker taken off, and let me see. I'm not sure all the military ones sometimes show up in here. But yeah, I don't see. Okay. Yeah, I don't see those ones on there, the map, but obviously they're in the air, and that's really, really good news because we need those things going into that area. I do see the other twin props that are in the area that have made drops. One's coming back toward Colorado Springs right now. One is heading, looks like, toward the Fremont County Airport, or else doing a loop around the fire right now. So that's kind of neat to see all of that, real-time action that 10, 20 years ago you didn't have access to. Let me check out the radar here. I'm really interested to see if at some point we're going to see this plume, as it's just not as active as it was yesterday. And again, I think that's good news. But it's hard to say good news when people are being asked to evacuate. But I just don't think there's the rate of spread of the fire that we were having 24 hours ago. And yeah, I still don't see that thing. So, and I can tell because see how all of that radar return is kind of jumping around there. There's nothing that is sort of sustained and significant. If we were seeing the smoke plume, we'd be getting that. So, and that's kind of the situation as of now. Let's see. Okay, I do have, let me pull up one of the tankers on that website that we were at, because I do see it, and I'll go back here and we'll look at it together. All right. Scroll back down to the flight tracker again and zoom in to where we are interested in. That's not working the way I want it to here. All right. That's not doing what I want. But you can see all of the aircraft that are in the atmosphere. I mean, a lot of those are commercial flights and whatnot. But yeah, that tanker's heading right toward the fire right now. So that's good news. I do see another one getting set to take off at the airport. Yeah, I mean, evacuations, again, if you need that information, here is the number to call, 719-276-7421. That will get you to the Emergency Operations Center in Fremont County. So please only use that if you are impacted by either the evacuation or the pre-evacuation notice and you need some specific info. Otherwise, like you're just clogging things up for people that might need information. So please don't do that. Again, I need to move where that road is closed till, so I will go ahead and grab that and take it a little bit farther south now to the northern side of Penrose. And we'll delete that. And somebody else has joined me here, so let's bring him in and we'll get him on this afternoon, see where he's at. What information he has. Hello, sir. How are you?
Good, Matt. How are you?
Good. What's your name?
Hey, so if you look on the Fremont County Sheriff's Office Facebook,
Yep.
Their latest post about evacs,
Yep.
They did finally share the map of the area that they're most concerned about.
Perfect.
In yellow. So I just wanted to get that information.
So tell me while I'm finding that, tell me what you're seeing.
So today, less smoke than yesterday. Definitely. I live on the west side of Canyon City. Yesterday was definitely a day because that smoke plume, you could see it for miles. Okay. And the smoke cleared out this morning that was sitting over town, which was not great because late last night, smoke rolled in, ash started falling. So definitely air quality issues last night, but a lot better today. Not as active as we saw yesterday.
Right. Okay. So they just put a big, you're looking at the big circle that they put out?
Yep, that's what they're working with as of right now.
Yep.
They are working currently with, of course, emergency Fremont County Emergency Management to kind of get a better idea of what that area is going to look like going forward.
Right. And that's kind of what I said earlier, that these things, they change fast.
Oh, they
And
do.
as the information is flowing, you get additional detailed information. And I'll just, I mean, it legitimately is just a circle right now.
Yep.
What'd you say your name was again? I'm sorry.
Jay Baldessari.
Jay. Okay.
Yep.
Well, thanks for sharing that with me here, Jay. And I'm going to pull this up
No problem.
while you are on here. So, what time yesterday did you notice, if you were outside, did you notice that things were starting to change in terms of the plume getting active?
It was about 2:30. Stepped out back just to step away from the computer for work and looked up and black smoke, and I was just like, okay, that's not good.
Right. What do you do for a living?
I work from home. I work in pharmacy, so
Okay. Okay. My wife is a pharmacist. Do you do like database management? I got a buddy who works for CVS, and that's what he does for a
yeah,
living.
it's a bunch of that and like inputting scripts and all that.
Okay. Well, thanks for the work that you do. And so here is, I'm going to pull this back up now. Here is the evacuation map that
Yep.
you were talking about here. So,
Yep.
they're doing this on the quick as well. They'll probably fine tune this thing, but they described it as a 2-mile evacuation order around County Road F45 and Highway
Yep.
115. So loosely, that's what you're looking at here. Is this
Right.
evacuation area. And it does take us into the north side. I think that's K Street there of
Yep.
Penrose that I see on Highway 115. So there are some homes in this area, and that's why people are heading out this afternoon. So how long have you been in Canyon City?
I've been down here for 16 years now.
Okay. So you've lived through some of the other fires in the area.
Right.
You've lived through our less than winter.
Right.
It's interesting to me, the number of fires that have popped up in the last couple of days, given that the wind hasn't been very strong. Whereas last
And
week, we had that really strong wind, and thankfully we didn't get any fires. Because can you imagine these last week? It'd be a totally different situation.
it would be a whole different ball game. And there is another fire that popped up in Costello County.
Yeah, Costilla County.
Um,
Yep. It's called the Road
Yep.
N2 fire, 31
Yep.
acres right now. They are doing some structure protection there. So that's on the western slopes of the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. And so that's
Yep.
off to the east of San Luis. And yeah, it's something else to keep an eye on here
Yep.
this
Definitely.
afternoon.
Well, Matt, I'm going to step out, sir.
Okay.
Thank you for everything you do. We appreciate you.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for popping on, man. I appreciate that greatly. Thanks for letting me know they had that map out. So here's the map he was talking about there. And if you need more specific info on this, if you are in that area, I know lots of folks have been pushed that information from the sheriff office and from emergency managers in Fremont County at this point. You can see we're looking to the north of Penrose here, kind of from the north side of town up toward the south end of Salt Canyon, where the fire is burning. So that's one of the new pieces of information we have this afternoon. There is a pre-evacuation area that is an additional mile outside of this circle that brings us really into the north end of Penrose, which of course sits on Highway 50 between Canyon City and Pueblo West. So in the eastern edge of Fremont County. And I keep looping the visible satellite. I like that I don't see the plume on visible satellite. I'm happy about that. Because if we start seeing these things on some of our weather tools really good, that means that the fire's starting to burn hotter and obviously making for a bigger challenge for the firefighters than we have out there right now. So I just wanted to be on here, get that information out. Again, when I'm live, you always have the opportunity to join us. You know, when I'm doing live things, if you're watching on social media, please share the post so that other people can be involved in it. One last thing here through the course of the afternoon, here is what I expect the wind to do as we get into the evening. It is generally out of the southeast right now. We have 2 weather stations, one in Penrose, one on post at Fort Carson that confirm that. So the model has a good handle on that. But at some point in the evening, probably between 6 and 8 o'clock or so, we're going to begin to see a wind shift as we start to get into the backside or the nighttime part of our diurnal circulation that is driving our wind flow across southern Colorado right now. And if you're new to the area, or if you've moved here from the coast or places with big lakes like the Great Lakes, this is real similar to a sea breeze. And it just happens because different parts of the Earth's surface heat up in different ways. And so because if you take the relative levels of the atmosphere, the ground on the slopes of the mountains heats up faster than the air above the surface out over the plains during the morning. And that creates this relative area of low pressure. And so there's this high pressure over the plains as pushing that air up the slopes of the mountains. It's what happens in the summertime, 8 or 9 out of 10 days. And while you start to see the cumulus clouds, like, 9 o'clock, 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, starting to go on the sides of Pikes Peak, over the Wet Mountains, over the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. Well, that all switches at night. The mountains cool off faster in the same atmospheric level as the air above the plains. And so you get this relative area of high pressure that reverses the flow, starts pushing it down the mountains. And when you have weak weather patterns like we have right now with this big area of high pressure over the western U.S., like I'm just going to show you what the jet stream is doing right now. Our surface pressure gradient is very, very weak because you have this big area of high pressure and a bunch of sort of large scale sinking air. So there's no fronts in the area to kind of override that smaller scale terrain circulation. Tomorrow, as we get a cold front to start approaching, we will have some larger scale weather features that start overriding that and increasing the wind. And so tomorrow is going to be a more difficult day. That's one of the reasons, not just because we have evacuation of people's homes and property now, but one of the reasons that they're working so hard with aerial apparatuses today, trying to get a handle on this thing, is because we know tomorrow is going to be a more difficult day from a firefighting perspective. I can show you that here on the large scale. Watch what happens. So as we move through tonight, we get the downslope flow starts to develop. And overnight into early tomorrow morning, you see some areas right up against the terrain, Trinidad, Walsenburg, Canyon City, Saguache, that have some breezes up around 10 or 15 miles per hour. But you see Pueblo, Ordway, Eads, Colorado Springs, it's lighter. Now we get into tomorrow morning, watch what happens. The approach of this cold front, falling pressures over the plains, what we call a prefrontal trough, a lee trough starts to develop, and we see the wind pick up in a big way. Now the computer model here is showing things between about 10 and 25 miles per hour. You see some little sort of darker oranges there over some of the downslope areas of the mountain, some of the eastern slopes, which is pretty typical. But what the model is kind of underdoing for tomorrow is how easily the atmosphere is going to want to mix vertically. And that allows some extra transport down to the surface of some of these winds, and why I think around the fire we might be closer to 35 miles per hour or so tomorrow. So that's just something to be aware of here. Okay, let me check some comments here. I didn't put comments in. I didn't start that before I started this live stream. So before I kind of take off, I want to start that and get this interaction going here. So let me find these posts. Let me turn that on. Let me find our YouTube posts, and let me turn that on. And then let me load that up. Okay. All right. So this is kind of interesting here that Letitia, who lives in Colorado Springs, is watching us from 10,000 feet on our flight back to Colorado Springs. Look at that. It's a national program now. Okay. Jay's talking about the Chama Canyon fire. That's the one that is east of San Luis. We talked about that a little bit ago. Let's see. Sally asked if we had an evacuation map. Sally, yes, we do. We shared that a little bit ago. Where did I put it? Let me find it here. I think it was either this one or this one. Here you go. Here's the evacuation area. Now, this is crude because this is south of you, Sally. So she asked this morning, she said, hey, I'm a mile north of the fire. I'm concerned. So thanks for asking the question, Sally. It is south of you. It's for this new burn area that is now in the official perimeter of the fire. And I'm going to go back up and show you that here. So let me take this off. Okay. So see this new, and it's sort of detached from the original area of burn, but it's that has prompted these evacuations and what the fire is doing out there this afternoon. JF Deegan says people need to stop smoking and throwing out the window. I don't know if that's how this started, but I always agree with that statement. And Karen says, thanks for all the updates on the fire. Pueblo West out here is calm and sitting at 92. That's what's fascinating about this to me today, is there is lighter wind out there today than what we had yesterday. And so, you know, I was hopeful that we didn't have this kind of situation today. Tomorrow, the wind is going to want to push the fire to the east, which is farther on post at Fort Carson, and a lack of structures or fewer structures, certainly not public structures, versus what, you know, we're kind of dealing with today and why these evacuations have been issued. So, yeah. But look at this new area of fire. Let's get down here. Take this off. This new area of fire really is not far from 115. And so, you know, if and again, the wind's been erratic in there. I told you earlier that that station in Penrose for a while did have a north wind. So, you know, let's hope that that thing is not down on 115 or in danger of getting onto the other side of 115, because that changes things up in a big way if that were to happen. Because, you know, the road acts as this natural fire break. And fire crews like dirt roads. They love paved roads. So if we get that thing onto this side of the highway, is a completely different situation, because you have this major break that now you're on the other side of. So let's hope that we don't get reports that has happened. That would not be good news. But again, tomorrow, you know, it would, if that does happen, let's just, you know, talk about hypotheticals here, that it would push that back toward Highway 115, right? So if with that north wind that we had earlier, if that's some of what drove this new southern area of the fire, when we get northwest wind tonight, let me show you some good news that will bring. So see how there's more vegetation right on the ridge here than there is back this way? Right, so it's easier to fight the fire here than it is back in here. There's less stuff to burn, or the fuel is not as significant. And so, you know, if you have the fire, like, let's say this is what's going right now, get rid of all of this. If this is what's going right now, and this area has already been marked as in the burn, and again, some of this is preliminary, but it's at least some useful information. And, you know, we had that north wind earlier, that now we're getting a southeast wind is blowing that, you know, kind of back, hopefully, into this area that has burned. And then we get the northwest wind later. If this is the edge that is active and we blow it back onto the area that is burned, that's all helpful for the firefighters. So what they do is they plan for those wind shifts ahead of time. And when they can take advantage of one of those, sometimes what they'll do is they will, you know, kind of start a fire on the leading edge when the wind allows them, that burns back toward it and gives them an extra break from some, you know, gives them an area, helps them to define a perimeter. So, you know, that's all the stuff that out on the lines, I'm not out there. And some of, you know, this wind flow stuff, I'm having to make some assumptions on, or some put, you know, pieces of weather information that I've had through the day or that I have now, put that together like a detective and do some work. It's forensic meteorology, right? It's like a criminal forensic specialist, like looking at a crime scene. You have pieces of information and you are putting them together and building it to tell a story. I've got a comment from somebody, from Ray, who says, looks like the fire getting close to Camp Red Devil is a training area on Fort Carson. Ray would be familiar with this. Tomorrow, not a good day for that area. I don't think tomorrow is a good day, Ray, for any areas in the vicinity of this fire. So thanks for that information, my friend. I appreciate it. So there are aircraft that are fighting. We know there are crews on the ground. There was a bulldozer out there yesterday. I don't know if that dozer is back out there today. And I don't know, you know, to what extent that dozer, if it is out there, if it's on that northern end or that southern end. Okay. So I have a contact in the SoCo Wildland firefighting team who says a couple things, that they are holding it still on the east side of Highway 115, which is obviously excellent news for the reasons we just talked about. And the fire did make a run east, and actually this little finger up here to the north was not there in the previous update. So that might be some of this is new burn here. In fact, I can compare the two. I can compare the updates. So here's what I had this morning, and here's what I have right now. So you can see the new areas of the fire. So this east finger here, he says that the fire pushed east, but there was some retardant drops from some of the aircraft, and the crews are holding it with their engines right now. So, you know, they're out there, they're working. It's a good time to be thankful for the crews that we have that do that. Thankful for the first responders that may be helping some residents that are in the evacuation area that need assistance. We have amazing first responders here in Southern Colorado specifically, and I am extremely thankful for them. So it looks like we're going to get a press conference on the fire. Jay's let me know that. I don't know where he found that, but that could be, let's see. Looking on the Fremont Sheriff's, time is it? 3:30, 3:45. I am going to hold on here, and I'm going to see if I can locate where I might be able to get the press conference. doing some looking here. So just hang tight. While I am doing that versus stare at my face, I'll have you look at this. This is called Salt Canyon down in here. This gnarly terrain that the fire is burning in. On Highway 115, if I widen the view out, just to give you some perspective, it's always kind of helpful. See Penrose off to the south here of the fire on Highway 115. Some pre-evacs for the north side of Penrose. And then, of course, Colorado Springs and Pueblo. Letitia says thanks to those that are battling the fire. Letitia, I agree with that. Do a little bit of poking around here. All right, the Colorado Office of Emergency Management posted something about the fire. I'm going to do a social media post about this new update here. Thanks for giving me some grace here, you know, versus talking the whole time. Make sure I had done that. Okay, I had already put that out. So we won't do that again. Let me talk about, let's go beyond tomorrow and talk about another wind shift that might be a problem for this fire. Because we've got a cold front coming in early Sunday morning that is going to have some strong wind gusts with it as well. And that will bring another wind shift. So we're getting 36 hours or so out into the future here. But these wind gusts tomorrow that will be out of the west will switch around out of the north early Sunday morning. And see how prefrontal here, still wind out of the west. The speeds aren't as high as during the day, but they're still up there a little bit Saturday evening. But then we bring this front in early Sunday morning out of the north, and that's going to bring this little period of some wind gusts as well that might impact the fire between 20 and 40 miles per hour or so. You see that happening here into the early morning hours of Sunday. So that could be an issue also. Okay. I am still looking at what's happening in the vicinity of the fire here. There's a helicopter. There are 3 firefighting aircraft that are in the vicinity of the fire right now. So we are, actually that one, nope, that one is not doing firework, but there are 2. So there's a helicopter and 2 aircraft that are dropping retardant and perhaps some water on that fire as well. So those things are being really, really specific about where they are putting that, and the crews on the ground tell them where they want that to be to help them out with what they are doing at the surface. Let's see if I can zoom in here. This map. Okay. I'm going to take you right down to the fire here. So here's Highway 115. And you can see the helicopter is going back, and you can see the 2 firefighting aircraft are still over the fire there. That curve on Highway 115 is what I have been showing you on my maps, and that's Salt Canyon, where the fire is burning. Get back to that mapping here. Okay. So here's the mapping. So you see where the fire planes are right now, and they are right over this part of the fire right here. So aircraft are over there right now doing drops. Again, coordinating with the team. So you get to see all of that in real time, which I think is fascinating, having done, broadcasting for as long as I have. It's really, really stunning to be able to see that. Because, back in the day, that was not something we had access to. Okay. Look at a couple different things here. Answering a couple questions. Getting a text here. Hold on. Okay, so the aircraft that are up, they were described as somebody as C-130s before. Those are not the MAFs that we have here in southern Colorado. There are King Airs those are the twin turboprops that I was talking about. And then there are some lead planes that kind of do some spotting for the planes. So that's what's flying around there right now. So again, the evacuations, if you need info on that, if you're just seeing my stream here, whether you're on the Peaks2Plains Weather app, peaks2plainsweather.com, or you're on social media. By the way, if you're on social media, would you share this post so that others can find it? Would be great. But we do have evacuations from the north side of Penrose, pre-evacuations. I don't want to misspeak here. From the north side of Penrose at and then the evacuations are a 2-mile radius from County Road F45 and Highway 115. And again, they've got to do that before you get to this time frame here where, maybe the fire's coming down the terrain or something into where people are. They need to be ahead of that. So where this latest fire was, if we measure it to Penrose, it's 2 miles. That's a lot of real estate that has to happen. A lot of terrain there that the fire would have to go over. And again, it's on the east side of Highway 115, so they can use, the highway to their advantage as a break. And you start to get, there's some dirt roads here that it looks like they've used. I mean, if I zoom in really, really close here, and I take the perimeter off there, see how there's a road that goes down that ridge? I mean, they're using that to not only get around, but to use those as brakes. So if you have a, what's a road of that size? Maybe 10 feet, something like that. That's a natural area that fire has nothing to burn. So, and it's good that they've got roads in these areas because it's on post there at Fort Carson to get around, to do some, containing of the fire. And look how they've used that road, right? So where they can be efficient, they'll certainly do that. Now, this is the new area of burn that we have. The original area of burn, in fact, I think the actual original area of burn is here on the slopes of that ridge. But then it kind of got up on top of that ridge here. And again, it's made a run to the east this afternoon. And you can see again how they're sort of using the roads here to their advantage when they can. See how that fire burnt kind of here and sort of followed the road? So they're probably using that to their advantage. There are other roads back here. I mean, these don't look like high quality roads, mind you, but they're little breaks that they can use. Some break is better than nothing. And this is right on the border of Fremont, El Paso, and Pueblo County right there. Those are the white lines that you're looking at if I just back out, right? And then, you've got Fort Carson kind of all back in here. Of course, is Fort Carson. Don't hold me to those lines, but you get the idea. And obviously there's not as much stuff there, and there's not civilian assets there, on post. So if you're just joining me and been watching this here, we're ready for this as we move into the evening. What is a southeast wind now this afternoon? The fire made a run east, maybe earlier when I had that. There was a north wind I was measuring in Penrose. But I think on the large scale here, and again, there are different things that happen in the vicinity of this fire due to the smoke plume. And if anybody's seeing the smoke plume, since we're getting close to 4 o'clock, if it looks like it's getting a little more crisp, or it is going, instead of kind of off to the side, if it is going more like this, that tells us that the heat in the fire is getting more significant. If you see any of those things, let me know. That would be helpful, because I can't see it. Okay. So there are some private planes. I'm getting this information from somebody that knows what they're doing here. I'm not an aviation expert. So there are some C-130s that are Coulson planes. And then there are some lead planes that are the Beechcraft twin props. Okay, so this person has direct experience with that. Thank you so much. You know who you are. But what's going to happen here in the evening is that this large-scale flow is going to go from the southeast, and watch what happens here between, somewhere between 6 and 8, losing that heating of the day, a north wind developing there. Now, it's not particularly strong. You see the model drops some of the speeds here over the next couple of hours. Might be underdoing that a little bit, but that shift, it's been pretty persistent on having. So again, if it starts blowing that fire down to Highway 115, that's good news. They can use that as a break. They can do some burns on the backside of it and establish lines. So what do I mean there? So let's take this 8 o'clock wind flow, and now I'm going to go back to this map here. So at 8 o'clock tonight, if we have flow that is doing this, right? What the firefighters can do on the back edge here, whoops, why do I always do that? Not what I meant to do. Let me reset that. Okay. So if we get to 8 o'clock and we do get this north wind or northeast or some component of north to develop, if you're a firefighter out on the lines, you can let me change the color here. You can use that to your advantage, because you can put some fire down here that blows into where the previous burn was and eat some of that fuel and establish a stronger line back here. So you can do that on either edge of these. When you know these wind shifts are coming, you start making plans for that kind of thing. So maybe that's what they're doing. Obviously, a more challenging situation here for the next couple of hours, while it's hot, while the wind is up, while the humidity is bone dry. Bone dry. That's helping to, dry out the vegetation that we have in the area. Look at this humidity. Single digits. People don't know this, but sometimes, I know this, but I think on the large scale, oftentimes, or many times, or I've observed many times, some of the driest air in the United States is along the lee of the Rocky Mountains. We will have dew points sometimes that are below zero, like negative numbers. And in the Sonoran Desert, like the dew point, which is an actual measure of moisture in the atmosphere, will be like in the 20s. Now it's hotter there, so the relative humidity levels are about the same, but the air technically is drier here sometimes than it is in the deserts off to our southwest. Just something you should be aware of. Let's talk about how the humidity does or doesn't improve overnight. Let me load that up, and we'll watch for that together. Okay, pull that up. Because as the temperature goes down this evening, you will see the humidity improve some. Okay, so I'm going to take you from about where we are right now. Model doing a good job of handling that. And as you start to lose the temperatures this evening, notice how the humidities start coming up. Now, it's not that the amount of water in the atmosphere changes, but with the cooler temperatures, the amount of water that the air can hold before it gets saturated changes. That's what humidity actually means, and that's why we say relative humidity. It's relative to the temperature. So you can see here into early tomorrow morning, you know, we're up in the 20s to maybe around 30. Now that's pretty janky relative humidity recovery. You'd like to see it get up into the 40s and whatnot, but with how warm this air mass is, that's just not happening. Then you get into tomorrow, which is going to be a difficult day. So through 9 o'clock, the numbers are already starting to drop on the humidity, which is a function of how fast we'll warm up. Again, amount of water in the atmosphere not necessarily changing. But you see we're back into the single digits on the relative humidity. But the bigger issue tomorrow, and why we have red flag warnings that are up for southern Colorado from 11 o'clock in the morning until 11 at night, is because we get stronger wind with a cold front approaching. Ahead of that cold front, you get the large-scale pressure gradient starts to change, and you get a different situation. So let me take you into late Saturday morning. Here comes the increase in wind. And notice how tomorrow it picks up first over the mountain areas and then kind of spreads out east across the front range and across some of the plains. But notice how it doesn't get as strong way out east as it does as you get closer to and over the mountains. And I think some of these model speeds on the gusts that you're seeing here are a little bit underdone. It's going to be closer to maybe 25 to 40. Some of the eastern slopes of the mountains maybe up around 45. So in the vicinity of the fire, you know, they're probably planning for 25 to 35, something like that tomorrow. They know what direction it's going to be because, again, that's a larger scale system that's happening, so they can plan for that. So they'll try to do some tightening up of the eastern ends of the fire tonight if they can. But tonight, you get that northwest flow coming off of Pikes Peak that's going to maybe hamper those efforts a little bit. I mean, things are always changing. Can you imagine how quickly things are changing out on a wildfire line? Here's something else to show you. So let's take you back to last week. I was texting with one of the gentlemen that works in Falcon Fire, and I was telling him like that I was surprised at how kind of active the smoke plume was yesterday. And he said the same thing. But then we were talking about how it was crazy that how thankful we were that last week there were no fires when we had that 50 to 70 mile an hour wind. Because can you imagine this if it was last week, right? Like we had a fire pop up yesterday. Over the last couple of days. We've got one going in Costilla County right now to the east of San Luis. They are doing some structure protection on it. It's small. It's about 4 acres. We've got the 24 fire, which is the biggest of the bunch here. We had one yesterday southeast of Fowler in the Apashapa River. And then we had one earlier this week in the Wet Mountain Valley off to the northwest of Westcliff. So on the week with a lighter wind, we've had fires pop up. Last week we didn't. It was warm last week. Wasn't this warm. Maybe that's the difference. I don't know. But all of that to tell you, this fire weather index here that I'm showing you, last week when the wind was stronger, my color table was up on the higher end of it, and there were big areas of these small oranges that you see here and dark reds We're showing the fire weather index combination of temperature, humidity, wind gust was more significant than it's going to be tomorrow, which is still a significant fire weather day. So something to be aware of here. Okay, let me see if I can find this press conference. If any of you know where that press conference is, let me know. I am going to look. Oh, look at Wanda talking about the relative humidity right here. Wanda, you're good. She says, yesterday I was wondering about that and a comparison to Phoenix yesterday when their humidity was 19% and we were 5%. There you go. Okay, I am going to do something here. I'm going to pull up a traffic camera. Get that into the system. Hold on, I'm gonna get my microphone out of the way for a second, so hang tight. Okay. Jay, thanks for pointing that out. I appreciate it. Jay says, hey, there's a CDOT cam that has a pretty good view of the fire. So I'm going to pull that up together. And it's, thing with CDOT cameras is some of them are better than others because some of them actually show you video and some of them are just still images that happen every now and then. But this is a one that is actually video. So I'm going to pull it up under the Penrose one. And then let me switch this here. And then I'm going to take this off on the side. Take this off. Kind of fun to let you guys watch me kind of run the weather computer that, normally don't get to do. Okay, so here we are at least looking at the fire, and you get a sense here of the kind of vegetation that this fire is burning in. There's juniper bushes. There are some pine here and there back in there. But that, from this vantage point, is different than yesterday. I mean, those I would describe more as, we don't see flames there. We look for crispness because it's convection that's pulling this up here, and the more you can see and the more defined the edges are, the more material is in there that the fire is burning and the hotter the fire is burning. So that's not an awful look right there. And we've got Malay that says, thank you for sharing that. And yes, big shout out to Jay. Jay, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. That's our weather together, man. That's what it's all about. Dana says, thanks, first responders, for all you do. I agree with that. Bob also says, thank you, first responders. Stay safe. So I can't find, man, I'm poking around here and I just can't find that press conference. I don't know. Maybe we'll get some information from that here coming up in a little bit. If you're poking around where you are and you can find it, let me know where it is in the chat and I'll pull it up and we can watch it together. If you are in an area where you can see the smoke plume, you have a different vantage point, you can join me here on Peaks2Plains Weather. You can use these links And I suggest, you know, downloading the Peaks2Plains Weather app, because I did a push alert that I was going to do this live thing here. And I put the links in there, but make it easy on yourself. Save these links, put them into your phone, like make Peaks2Plains Weather a contact. And then you can just click the link and you can pop up here on the show. I mean, that's, you know, what it's all about. So that is a good look. Jay, super shout out, man. Super shout out. Let's use some of our other tools and see if we can see this thing. My hunch is not, because it doesn't look like it has changed all that much. I don't really see it there on the visible satellite. And I still don't see it on the radar either. That's good news. So it looks like the level of heat that it has is not as significant as it was yesterday. Here's a wind feature you can see on radar. So, man, that's interesting. See this right here? So I think that's our diurnal flow kind of working up the slopes of, southern slopes of the Palmer Divide right there. So this is kind of what we're getting. I mean, we're measuring a southeast wind on post at Fort Carson. Penrose, there's a weather station. We're measuring southeast as well. In fact, here is that Fort Carson station. Again, Highway 115 remains closed out of the southeast at 6. That's not awful. And then I know this is, let me see where Old Portland Road is here. Pull up a map. In relation to Penrose. I'm pretty good with roads and where things are in southern Colorado for as long as I've been doing this, but okay. So this is just, this is west of Old Portland Road. And so this is kind of right at County Road 120. Here is Highway 50 kind of curves, making that east of, let's see, half a mile west of Old Portland Road and County Road 120. So kind of as you start, there's a big bend in Highway 50 that kind of heads off to the northwest, taking you into Penrose when you're driving west from like Pueblo West. And that's kind of where the camera is. Let's see if I'm going to poke around on these cameras that are in Penrose. And the road doesn't look any busier than it normally does. So I don't think the pre-evacuations are causing any issues. Oh, cool. You know what? I need some caffeine. You know what one of the errands I was running earlier was? I went to American Classic Coffee, and I met with Spence, and he was showing me his roaster. And we roasted some coffee together. And I need some caffeine. That's what's happening. I don't have time to make coffee, but I'm going to run over to my fridge. I'm going to grab me a soda, and I'll be right back. Okay. Oh, yeah. Sometimes that stuff hits, man. Sometimes that stuff hits. Okay. Let me look at a couple pieces of information here. See if we can get anything else. All right. No huge change. Looks like we are getting a press conference from Fort Carson because it is on post. You know, that is, I think it's good that it's on post. There'd be more homes in the area if it wasn't. So that's certainly some good news. Okay. See if anybody's got any other questions or comments here in social media. And looks like we have someone that's joined us here, so I'm going to bring her in. Good afternoon, ma'am. How are you? What's your name and where are you at? Hello, ma'am. You got me? I'll give her one more chance here. Ma'am, this is Matt Meister. Can you hear me? Okay, we'll see if she can figure that out there. All right. I mean, the short of the long here is this is a yet another reminder about how kind of primed, Southern Colorado seems to be for fires. Let me show you the location of the new fire that has popped up today. Since we're just past 4 o'clock here, you're on Peaks2Plains Weather. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Meister, and we're doing coverage here. So there's San Luis on the western end of the San Luis Valley, and this canyon that you see right here, heading down the slopes of the Sangre de Cristos, is where a new fire has been reported this afternoon. And that fire is called the Road N.2 fire, because it's on County Road N. And .2, it's in the 2500 block of that road. And I'm going to zoom right in down here. Let me take this off. And I'm going to zoom in and we'll get the gray will go away and we'll be able to see what's down in here. So the fire is reported right down in this area. Let me go ahead and pull up my fire icon. Okay, let's see. Here we go. All right. So the Road N2 fire is right back in here. Again, this is in Castilla County. And I'm going to label it. You guys just get to watch me do all this stuff. I don't know if that's exciting or not, but it looks like that's an agricultural area, obviously. And so there, somebody may have been burning there, but that is called Chama Canyon right here. And again, that, coming out of the Sangre de Cristos there in Costilla County, down on the valley floor. So that's the Road N2 fire. And then I'm keeping my eyes obviously on this fire here. Now, this is significant, but this just caught my eye. This is the big fire. This is a Morrill fire in Nebraska. This is the one that's over 800,000 acres. That is an enormous fire, and you see some of the other fires that they've had burn-in with that they've been dealing with in that state. Because like us, they've had kind of a puny winter as well. So given it's a little bit after 4 o'clock, I'm going to kind of reset some things here with what we expect weather-wise going from the next few hours and then into Saturday and then into Sunday with the arrival of a cold front. And it's a situation that, this new area of burn on the kind of this, I don't know if we call that the southern flank now or area number 2 or the south area. It gets harder to fight the fire 24 hours from now than it is right now from a weather condition perspective. And here's why. So we're going to get a wind shift tonight. And here's where we are right now. We move into tonight. Our diurnal wind somewhere usually happens between 7 and 9 o'clock as the atmosphere starts to cool down some. And you see that happening here. I can tell by that flow, that's actually a new model run there, and it's still showing the same thing. And if I zoom into that, you can see that wind shift starting to develop here. And let me zoom out a little bit. bit. Give you a bigger perspective there. You see the wind starts kind of flowing from the higher terrain down toward the river valley. You still see some, easterly wind out around Hanover, Boone, Avondale, in eastern Pueblo and eastern El Paso counties. But if I change the time on here and take you into Saturday, let's say 2 a.m., right? So now I'll take you from about that same time at 8 o'clock, and you see what happens here into the late part of the evening and into the overnight is you see that flow kind of coming off of the hills and starting to move down the Arkansas River from Canyon toward Pueblo West and Pueblo. There's kind of more of a westerly component there. That's our diurnal wind flow. That when you have lack of something that significant weather-wise in the vicinity, the terrain really drives what happens with our wind flow. And that really starts to describe once you get into, late April, early May, if there's not a late cooler season storm, snowstorm moving through, you start to see this terrain feature really drive our wind flow during the summer months. So at night, the flow is down the slopes of the mountains onto the plains because we call it differential heating. If you take, the same elevation in the atmosphere and say this is land and this is air up above the plains, this cools off faster, this land at this same level compared to the air up above the plains. And it's opposite in the morning. When the sun comes up, this heats up quicker than the air that's up over the plains. And so you get these sort of smaller scale high and low pressure areas that develop. And of course, wind wants to flow from high pressure to low pressure. And so right now what we've got is this relative high pressure over the plains, relative low pressure over the mountains. And so that's why we have this southeast wind. Well, it swaps at night when the temperatures start cooling off. And so we'll start to see that again happen around 7 or 8 o'clock. All right, let's bring my buddy back in here who joined us earlier. And sir, what do you got for us now?
So if you look on the Fremont County Sheriff's Office Facebook page, they have shared the updated evacuation zone.
Okay.
Everything in darker is what they're evacuating now, and everything that's in the lighter color is what is on the pre-evac status.
Okay, so let me go pull that up here, and I'll get that into my system. Thanks for keeping an eye on that, man. I appreciate it.
It's a lot of information coming at once today.
Yeah, it is for sure. Okay, yeah, that's way better than...
Right.
That is a lot more useful for sure. Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. That is, and you can see like they've got dots of where the homes are and whatnot.
Yep.
As well. So I will go ahead and load that up. And thank you so much for making me aware of that. I appreciate it because it's
No
tough
problem,
to do.
Matt.
So thank you so much.
No
And
problem.
if you find anything else that's of use, let me know. So he popped out again already. And, that's what this is about, right? It's neighbors helping neighbors. He's helping me help you. And so let me swap this out. And so I'm going to edit this. I'm going to pull in the new image and watch how much more information is on here compared to what we had before. All right. Okay. Now, what's good about this here is we can see structures. So that's what's plotted on here in red. The gold that you see is the radius of the evacuation that they have requested. So all of these buildings, all of these people are in the evacuation area. And you can see Highway 115 there as well. And then the gold area is the pre-evacuation, and you see how the homes get more dense there into the north side of Penrose. Now, let me contrast that with where this new burn is, because it's certainly the southern burn that's really prompting all of this stuff, right? So you can see the shape of Highway 115 there. I'm going to save that. And now I'll come back to the evacuation map, and you can see that same bend in Highway 115 where it goes due north for a little bit and then kind of jogs back to the northeast. So that's in the vicinity, kind of the northeast quadrant of that evacuation area is where the burn is. And so they're being aggressive about who they've put into this evacuation area and then the pre-evacuation area. So in the pre-evacuation area, what they're asking people to do is start making preparations, right? Like if you have medication, do you have animals that you need to start thinking about? Trying to give people a heads up. In the evacuation area, it's go. Did you see earlier this week, the city of Colorado Springs and the fire department had a press conference about adopting the Ready, Set, Go, which isn't new. CAL FIRE's had that for a long time. And I think it's a sort of nationally kind of driven program. But it's something we can all relate to, right? Like, we've been playing that game since we were kids. So, ready, like the people in the yellow are set, like be set. And then the people in that darker gold are going. So, yeah, you know, this fire with this new burn area causing some issues here on this Friday. That's where we're at. I do think the firefighting conditions will get a little bit more favorable in the next couple of hours. I think that's good. Tomorrow, though, is that challenging day. We've got red flag warnings that are up. I told you we'd talk about that. Here we go. Red flag warnings start at 11 o'clock and last until 11 p.m. And that's because not only is it's going to be hotter tomorrow than it is today. Humidity levels are going to tank again as the temperatures start to warm up into the single digits. And the wind is going to be stronger tomorrow than what we've got out there today. And I can show you that. Today, it's actually pretty light. This is sustained wind. This is not the gust, but this is, you know, about what we've seen kind of in the area. Let me show you the gusts now. Take you to tomorrow. Because as the cold front approaches, the wind gusts are going to pick up. So this afternoon, they're running 10 to 12. Overnight, you know, we'll have some pockets in the mountains here and there where it's about that. And you may get, you know, some areas for a short time where the breezes pick up. But this, from a firefighting perspective, is pretty good overnight. And then you get into tomorrow morning and watch what happens once we hit late morning and certainly afternoon. It's like the whole atmosphere goes, right? And the wind's out of the west. So the humidity tanks back into the single digits. Shouldn't have drank that soda so fast. Then, though, we get into tomorrow night and we get this cold front that comes in. So again, red flag warning in effect through 11 o'clock tomorrow night, right? Because you still see that some of the, you know, wind is up there in some cases, maybe around 20 miles per hour. And the humidity will be slow to recover because the temperatures will be slow to drop because the atmosphere will be well mixed ahead of this cold front that comes in. And that happens early Sunday. And the challenge that can provide for firefighters is a wind shift, a significant wind shift, because that north wind, probably strongest gust east of the fire, but between 25 and 40 miles per hour. So there's a couple things to be ready for here over the next couple of days, for sure. So something that we need to be ready for. Okay, let's go back to our traffic camera that is east of Penrose here a little bit, looking up at the fire. And again, we really haven't changed much there on what we can see, which is good news. I mean, what we don't want to see is, you know, a big, you know, we don't want it to get into some thick stuff that burns and gets the fire going and the heat going more significantly, and starting to drive vertical motion at a greater rate over the course of the fire, because fires can start to create their own weather. And when that happens on an extreme end of things, sometimes you can legitimately get a thunderstorm created from a fire. But when the air above the fire, as the heat of the fire, whether it's because, wind's moving faster or because it gets into some more fuel to burn, when the air above the fire gets hotter, that vertical motion increases, and that gets air at the surface starting to rush in to the, to the fire area. And you can kind of get this sort of cycle that gets created there. So anyways, that's kind of what that is. I think we should check the temp here now that we're past 4 o'clock. Whoops. Hitting buttons fast. So I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think that out of, those of you that are on the stream here of what we've experienced the last few days? My perspective, it's not good to see things going up so easy and that's why we have fire restrictions. We've had them. We have stage 2 restrictions in Colorado Springs. El Paso County has restrictions. I haven't looked around, but my hunch is that most counties probably have them, if I were to guess. So 81 right now in Colorado Springs, 88 in Pueblo. The 88 in Pueblo is a new all-time March record high. The 81 in Colorado Springs ties. That's where we were yesterday for the high temperature, but our official's probably going to be 82 or 83. And then tomorrow, it's actually going to get hotter. So let me show you tomorrow. Here's my forecast. I've got 86 still in Colorado Springs. I've got Pueblo at 94. Got us in the mid-90s out over the plains, 80s for the mountain valleys. And again, with more wind than today, you see why that's an issue. So Rick says this is the exact spot a couple years ago where there was a fire. There was a soft pull-off area. Could have been a hot vehicle. Hard to say what the true cause was. Yeah, and I'm with you. I don't, it's listed as human-caused. And I know that, the exact cause is known. I don't know what it is. But I would prefer that it's something like you're saying there, Rick, a hot vehicle instead of someone throwing a cigarette or something out, right? I think you would all probably agree with me on that. Okay. Letitia asks, how much of the Penrose fire is currently contained? It is listed at 0% last I saw. Let me check the latest update. Yeah, last I saw, I still don't think there's containment with it. Hopefully that changes ahead of tomorrow. That would be really, really good news. I'm just scanning real quick if there's any other fires that have popped up today. Thankfully, no, outside of that one in Castilla County, which again is called the Road N2 fire, burning east of San Luis, down in an agricultural area. Diane asks, if that one is in New Mexico? It's not. It's in Colorado. A couple other things here. Okay. All right. So we got the information out on the evacuation. We got on as quick as I could. Once I saw that was requested, we've had an update of the quality of the evacuation information, because obviously it takes time to generate this stuff. And that's why ultimately, when it comes down to it, over the next couple of months or something, and if a fire happens to form where you are, and you are in a situation where you don't feel safe, don't wait for somebody. Like, don't wait for an instance, like for your phone to tell you to go, or don't wait for somebody to come knock on your door to tell you to go. If you see something that doesn't feel safe, you should go. Like, let me encourage you to do that. I know sometimes, when we get stressed, we get into these situations where, we want some support or some backup to make these decisions. But what is the harm of going if you don't feel safe? and then turns out later that you didn't need to, right? I'd point that out. Okay, one more check here. Since we were on, like to, get people aware, try to get onto the live stream, get into the algorithms on YouTube, on social media and all of that, did that push alert. That was my main goal here, was to give people, to try to let people know, like, hey, you're in an evacuation area if you weren't aware of it. And then, things aren't currently changing much. If I get some indication that is happening, I'll pop back in here and let you know. But for the time being, I think I'm going to hop off and do some forecast updates. I'll still be in here, still be working, still be pushing some stuff on social media. But that is our latest look here from Highway 50, just to the east of Penrose, about 2 miles or so, 2.5 miles. Looking to the north there, where we can see what this new southern end of this 24 fire is. We've got crews in there working. We've got aircraft that are in there working. We have a more difficult fire weather day tomorrow than we've got out there today. So we're going to be, ready if we need to hop back in tomorrow and see what's happening. So prepare yourself now if you are in a spot tomorrow where you can help out with coverage like a couple people have today. And thank you so much for doing that. I appreciate it. Here are the links that you can use to do so. One more check of 2 other weather tools before we get out of here. But by the looks of that right there that we are seeing together, I still don't think we're going to see it on the visible satellite very well. Don't. And so I don't think we're going to see it on radar either. Whoops. Went the wrong way. I hope this was helpful. I hope being able to kind of drill down on this is of use to you, my friends. That's going to be it for this live stream here of the 24 fire burning in eastern Fremont County. Report I had from a crew on the fire that it was still east of Highway 115, which is good. So, okay, crew, that's it. I'll be back in. I'm going to get some updates up on the Peaks2Plains app, the Peaks2Plains YouTube channel, up on the website. Everywhere you are is where I am going to be, where I am, and am, again, committed to bringing this to you when things go downhill, and being able to hop on quick and easy. So thanks for being part of this. I hope if you find it useful, please download the Peaks2Plains Weather app. Please tell your friends, and I will see you. I'll probably do some pretty significant updates tomorrow morning as we get ready for what is going to be a more difficult firefighting day. Take care.